And we are live, guys. Welcome to another live stream from Men of High Value channel. Today we're going to talk about force and why initiating force is feminine, not masculine. Very often people want to talk about force and violence as being something that is masculine. No. Force and violence comes from feminine. When you understand that feminine is emotional, it is completely focused on the now, what is happening right now, and all the wires everything is connected to each other, and and the emotions that I feel are amplified so much. It's because you are feminine, not masculine. Now, the dangerous aspect is when a man is feminine, because that means his emotions have been building over time exponentially until the point where they now use force to get their will. And bad things happen when you get to that point. Now, where does it come from? It comes from, one, of course, is lack of education. And I'm not talking about academic education. I'm just talking about the understanding of the world, understanding of people, understanding of women, understanding of the masculine and the feminine. When you understand that, you understand that there is way better ways to get what you want than forcing others to give you what you want. When you force others to give you what you want, then you're basically causing them to need to force what they want. And you end up having a battle and a polarized effect, so that, like, for example, let's say a father wants his daughter to not go on a date with that dude. When he forces her to not do that, then she will want to do the opposite. It's always like that. Whenever you try to force someone, our brains, humans, we were built for freedom. So when someone tries to force us to do something, we'll always try to do the opposite. So it doesn't work, right? So when you instead, force also shows you that you are without power. If you're forcing someone, you're also, in advance, you blamed them for something. So you're blaming someone else, which means that you are making them the leader, and then you, as the follower or the child, is now saying that, no, my way is the best, and that's why I'm going to initiate force. That's what happens when you blame. For kids to blame their parents, that's completely understandable. For kids to blame someone else, no, it wasn't me, and blame someone else, completely understandable, because they know in their nature that they are innocent. Just like women, why do they blame so much? Is because they are innocent. So that's where we got to understand it. When women and children are perfect examples of what it is to be feminine, emotional, and in the now. And they should be allowed to do that. But the problem is that in the world where we're living in today, where there's a lot of force going on, you don't see how it would be if they were persuaded to do that which was right, and helped and guided to do that which is right, until the point where they're completely unburdened and they actually choose by themselves to do that which is right. And when that happens, there is no force, and there's only positive things happening. Force comes all the way from impatience. It's an impatient person who eventually uses force, and then once force is used, most probably it can end up eventually into violence, and eventually violence turns into war, which is not where we want to be. I'm obviously against socialism. And the reason why I'm against socialism is because it's completely and purely based on force. It's based on the government forcing the people to pay taxes which they don't really want to do. There's been an experiment done in Norway where they have created a website where you can donate money to the government. Interestingly enough, very, very, very few people do it. Now, of course, not many people know about it, but at the same time, very few people do it. And simply because, think about it yourself. Do you want to pay more in taxes or you want to pay less in taxes? And most of us, 99% of us would say, no, I want to pay less in taxes. And when you say that, but I want other people to pay more in taxes, especially the rich, you are now essentially blaming the rich and blaming someone else by saying everyone should pay more in taxes except for me because they don't know my situation. I'm blah, blah, blah. But it doesn't work like that. If you want to be the leader in this situation, you will do something about this tax situation. You'll vote against socialistic values because it doesn't work. You're taking money from people who don't want their money taken. What ends up happening is civil unrest, and you basically run out of other people's money. And when you've run out of other people's money, which is the people's money, then the people revolt, and there's force, violence, eventually war. You don't want to get there. And that's why socialism is mostly women. It's mostly women and minorities who vote for socialism. Yes, you get a lot of men who do it too, but and I would say it's because of lack of understanding and lack of education, but at the same time, you have to understand that there's a lot of good people too who believe that socialism, we've got to help the young people, we've got to help the minorities, we've got to help women, we've got to help the small people who don't have power. And if we stand collectively, then we can stand against the conservative white people. But that's not how it works. The way it works is we need to create win-win situations without force, through persuasion, through understanding, through creating win-win situations. That's the only way for progress to happen. What happens as well when you force people? They, like I said before, they do the opposite of what you want them to do. Yes, they might follow you for a while, but eventually there will be issues every single time. That's just how it works. But once you understand that it is possible to lead someone to do what you want them to do as long as you create a win-win situation, force is no longer necessary. So, force is feminine, focused on the now, focused on emotions, focused on getting your will, even though you are not out to create a win-win situation. And force is also blaming the other person for not giving you what they want until you get upset about it and want now to force them to give it to you. While on the other hand, with force, you suppress education because you're closing minds and you're making them violent. So I recommend that you do not force people. I recommend that you focus on creating freedom. In the short term, are there going to be problems? Absolutely. But in the long term, freedom will always win. Because with freedom, you can now educate people to do that which is right, and you can create win-win situations. This is the Men of High Value channel. My name is Joseph Darling. I'll see you again tomorrow.